Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. Today we are talking Week 16, start sits for the running back spot. Most important week of the season for the vast majority of you guys out there. Need to get your lineups right. Make sure that we don't leave tons of points on the bench, or more importantly, start someone that ends up giving us nothing. So do our best to help you guys make those important lineup choices. I know this can be a very hard time of the year to give a lot of time and attention to fantasy football. There's a lot of other things vying for your time right now. So for those of you that only have a quick minute, we'll go over our start sits real quick without going into too many details. Number 5 start this week, we got Marlon Mack. 4, we have Devonta Freeman. 3, Aaron Jones. 2, Raheem Mostert. And finally, our start of the week, Joe Mixon. The players that we're looking to potentially sit this week, if we have a better option, include Adrian Peterson, Carlos Hyde, David Montgomery, Kerryon Johnson, and Leonard Fournette. All right, as we usually do, let's begin with our 5 starts, beginning with number 5. I hesitate to say this one because of how horrible he was on Monday night, but Marlon Mack, he gets to play the Carolina Panthers this week. The Panthers are the worst team against the running back on the year, and that really hasn't changed over the past 5 weeks. I know this one is hard to go back to the well on. If you survived last week, hopefully you did so with Marlon Mack on your bench, or you just had enough people blowing up for you that his terrible 1.9 point performance on Monday night against the Saints wasn't enough to kill you. I mean, we really just have to look at the matchup here. Carolina has been horrendous against the running backs all year. This game is in Indianapolis. Marlon Mack is the kind of back that really needs volume to produce. And with the way that Drew Brees was playing on Monday night, taking that all-time touchdown record, it really was just 100% a Drew Brees show, and the Colts just didn't even show up for that show. I don't think that is going to be likely at all here with Carolina Panthers playing their third-string quarterback, Will Grier, in a game that I think will likely be probably a little bit lower scoring, and one that there's very low chance of the Panthers blowing the Colts out. I don't think Marlon Mack is going to get game scripted out like he did last time. He's had 2 weeks now to recover from his injury that had kept him out for a couple weeks. I mean, I get having trepidation starting him, but he's done well in good matchups up to this point, and this is another great matchup for him. So I'm willing to risk it if I'm deciding between Marlon Mack and a couple other fringe options. I think Marlon Mack is a decent start this week. Okay, number 4, Devonta Freeman. He gets to play Jacksonville, who over the last 5 weeks have allowed the most points to the running backs, and on the season have allowed second most, only behind Carolina. So 2 underperforming running backs with good matchups. I mean, running back can be one of the most matchup-dependent positions out there, especially guys that are fringe elite. I wouldn't even call Devonta Freeman fringe elite anymore at this point. He's definitely a running back too, and someone that's likely on the way out of being in the starting role for an NFL team, but he's still playing decently. A couple weeks ago, he had a really good showing against the Panthers. Last week, he didn't do too well, but he was playing against the 49ers, who have been one of the best teams against the running backs all year. We recommended a bench last week that turned out to be a good choice, but I mean, when you turn around from playing the 49ers to get to play Jacksonville, it's like a breath of fresh air for a running back. If I have Freeman, I would say start him with full confidence in this one. Jacksonville is just not very good against the run, and I think that the Falcons can move the ball pretty easily. All right, number 3, we're looking at Aaron Jones versus the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings are giving up right in the middle, 16th in points allowed over the last 5 weeks, and they're number 24 on the season. So they've given up a bit more to the running back over the past couple weeks than they have on average for the whole season. On paper, this matchup doesn't look great for Aaron Jones. The game is in Minnesota, but really for this one, I'm trying to get as many of the offensive options outside of a few guys into this game, and I wanted to just make sure I put Aaron Jones out there to give people a vote of confidence. I saw a few people in the community kind of worried about starting Aaron Jones in this game just because he does have the propensity to just have a complete dud of a game, but if I need to remind you, week 2 when he played Minnesota, I believe he had 6 receptions and like 25 fantasy points in PPR. So This is a game that the Packers know they need to win if they want to clinch the North, and I think Aaron Jones is their best weapon for being able to do that. In the games Aaron Jones has received multiple targets, they typically have performed better. Yes, last week against the Bears, Aaron Jones didn't get any receiving targets, but this is a different game. It's a different week, a different game plan. I'm not looking too much at that. Overall, Aaron Jones has been a tremendous receiver on the season, and if he gets a decent target share in this one and he's on your bench, you're going to be very disappointed. So giving you full confidence to start Aaron Jones this week. All right, number 2, Raheem Mostert. He's playing the Rams. The Rams are 4th in fantasy points allowed to the running back in the last 5 weeks, 14th on the season. So considering that, the Rams have been getting worse against the run as the season has gone on. They've become stingier against the pass. This is a game that it's kind of hard to predict whether or not it's going to be a blowout or a close game. Like, games in the NFC West have basically been all over the place this year. Most of them have typically been higher scoring, but really we're just analyzing the backfield here. Matt Breida had 2 fumbles last week, even though he looked good on a couple of runs. That's definitely not going to bode well for his playing time this week. And then Tevin Coleman had 1 nice run, but other than that, he's pretty much been a ghost over the past 3 weeks. And Raheem Mostert, even though he didn't have a blow-up fantasy game, from a 49ers team perspective, he looked really good last week. I like the 49ers to kind of control this game and continue to be able to use Mostert throughout the game. If you have Mostert, I think that you should try your best to get him into your lineup, because I think he will end up having a really good game this against the Rams this week. But no one better for your starts this week. Very few players I would play over Joe Mixon playing the Miami Dolphins. They're number 6 for fantasy points allowed against the running back over the last 5 weeks, and they're number 3 on the season. The last 2 weeks, Mixon played pretty good defenses, and he played them ridiculously well. Bill Belichick said he thinks that Mixon is the best running back in the league, and I tend to respect what Belichick has to say. So if he plays really well against good defenses, this week he gets to play one of the worst run defenses in the game that could easily become a crap shootout. I like Mixon to be heavily involved in the game between Cincinnati and Miami this week. If you have Joe Mixon, he's going to get you a fantasy title, so make sure he is in your lineup. Okay, let's look at some of the people that we're sitting this week. We begin with Adrian Peterson, the running back for the Redskins, versus the Giants this week. The Giants are allowing second least points to the running back position in the last 5 weeks, which only the 49ers have been better against the running back than the Giants the last 5 weeks. And I really think this lowers Peterson's floor pretty low. And overall, his ceiling wasn't really that high to begin with. And I think this brings it even lower. Yes, he's played well the past couple of weeks, but playing against a Giants team that has a really staunch run defense, I'd be looking for a different option here if I could. Okay, next, Carlos Hyde. Pretty similar story here to Adrian Peterson. Last week, Carlos Hyde hit the 1,000-yard rushing mark on the season, was heavily involved in the game versus Tennessee. But this game is a bit different. Tampa Bay is a suffocating run defense and a quarterback that loves to throw touchdowns and interceptions. Tampa Bay is allowing the 3rd least points to the fantasy running back on the season. So I'm avoiding Hyde wherever possible, because this is not a game script that's typically conducive for Hyde to do well. I mean, yes, he always gives you the opportunity of like a 1-yard goal line touchdown, but this isn't the kind of game that I'm banking on between the tackles grinder of getting many points against a pass funnel defense. All right, now let's look at David Montgomery. He's playing Kansas City, who are on the season pretty bad against the running back, but over the last 5 weeks, they've actually been allowing 27th in points allowed to the running back. I'm not sure if anyone's even considering starting Montgomery at this point, but he definitely needs to be benched if you are considering it. There'll probably be some off-season talking point in a week or a month about some unknown injury to Montgomery, because for the second half of the season, he's really just lacked explosiveness, and he's not forcing nearly as many missed tackles as he was near the start of the season. He just doesn't look good. Like, watching the games, every time he touches the ball, you're like, oh, well, he's just going to fall down. And I know that's easy for me to say watching from the sideline, but I'm really thinking that they're going to say that something is wrong with Montgomery, because he was playing pretty well the first couple of weeks, even when they weren't giving him much volume, and he just hasn't been the same since in the second half of the season. At this point, I'm I'm liking Kansas City to perform really well in this one. Whether it's a low-scoring game, if it's a high-scoring game, Kansas City is going to force Mitchell Trubisky to throw. And if it's a low-scoring game, I still don't like Montgomery to get too many points in this one, so I'm just looking for other options. All right, next one we're looking at Kerryon Johnson. So this one's interesting. We haven't really found out for sure that Kerryon Johnson is coming back, but it's looking like he's going to be back from IR this week. And I know there may have been some people that either kept him on IR, I think I even did that in one league, or there's the chance that you picked him up either this week or a couple of weeks ago knowing that he was going to be coming back. But I know it's tempting to throw him out there, especially if you've been waiting for him, but I wouldn't do it. Kerryon Johnson coming back from an injury. We don't know the workload that he's going to get. The Lions would be smart to not risk re-injuring him again at the end of the season, risking a longer-term injury for a game that really means nothing to them. And Denver's actually pretty good against the run. They're number 23 on the season in points allowed to the running back. So even if Kerryon Johnson plays, I'm looking elsewhere this week. And then last one, this is not a must-bench situation, but I want to give some pause to Leonard Fournette against Atlanta this week. Atlanta is 20th in points allowed to the running backs on the season, and they've been decent against the run all year. And Leonard Fournette has had 3 bad performances on the ground, and his target share has been a little bit disappointing the past couple weeks. I mean, he's still getting a decent amount of targets, but nothing like when the couple weeks that Nick Foles was playing, and he really just hasn't looked as good out there as he was. And most of that just has to do with the fact that the Jaguars are not playing good football, and running backs typically do better when they're on better teams. So is that to say that Leonard Fournette is guaranteed to suck this week? Of course not. But if I have a better option, I'm scared that Leonard Fournette will continue his string of bad performances and tank your team. So that's why I'm throwing his name out there for someone that if you're on the fence about 3 different guys, I'd rather play Austin Eckler than Leonard Fournette this week. So if you have questions, if you have Leonard Fournette, why don't you post in the comment section and we can discuss whether or not it would make sense for you to bench Leonard Fournette. And really that goes for anyone. If I haven't named a player here, but you're interested or curious who I would start or sit, feel free to put it in the comments. It's always best to be able to talk this out and come to a decision that you feel good about. So I'd be more than happy to help you guys with that. And really appreciate you guys listening to this video. I hope you liked it. If you do, please feel free to subscribe to my channel for more content, and we will see you in the next video.